The vacuum of space in the Zala Nebula was a graveyard for the unwary, where pirates thrived and even the bravest dared tread lightly. Jax Carter, a seasoned human mercenary, was neither unwary nor afraid. His battered but reliable ship, the Ironclad, carved through the nebula's swirling plasma fields, locked on a distress signal emanating from a royal vessel under siege. Prince Kyurin of Etheria, a young ruler of one of the galaxy's most enigmatic civilizations, had been ambushed by the Crimson Scourge, a notorious pirate faction. Corrin's ship, once a shining beacon of Etherian technology, was now a smoking wreck adrift in hostile territory. The prince's desperate calls for help echoed through Jax's calls. "Stay alive a little longer, Your Highness," Jax muttered, gripping the controls tightly. "I'm on my way." Jax's ship burst onto the scene, its hull streaked with battle scars from past skirmishes. He didn't hesitate, pivoting the ship's turret systems. He unleashed a barrage of plasma fire, targeting the pirate vessels with deadly precision. The smaller ships crumbled under his assault, forcing the remaining vessels into retreat. Docking with the royal ship, Jax quickly infiltrated its compromised halls. The stench of burning circuitry and the sound of distant gunfire filled the air. He fought through pockets of pirate resistance with calculated efficiency, his plasma rifle blazing. In the heart of the ship, he found Prince Kyurin, dishevelled but still exuding the quiet dignity of royalty. "You're the mercenary they sent?" Corrin asked, his voice steady despite the chaos around them. Jax smirked. "Disappointed?" "Not yet," the prince replied, taking the offered weapon. Together, they fought their way back to the Ironclad, escaping the pirate ambush in a blaze of fire and glory. Prince Kyurin was a man of few words but many debts, and he owed his life to Jax Carter. Back on Etheria, a planet of luminous oceans and floating crystal cities, the young prince prepared to honor the man who had saved him. The Etherian court buzzed with anticipation as the prince announced a grand ceremony in Jax's name. Jax, ever the pragmatic mercenary, cared little for pomp and circumstance. As he stood in the opulent palace, its walls adorned with ethereal sculptures that shimmered like starlight, he found himself itching to leave. "You've paid me handsomely, Your Highness," he said. "What's with the grand production?" Prince Kyurin's golden eyes gleamed with mischief. "Money alone cannot repay the debt I owe you, Captain Carter. You risked your life for mine. Etherian tradition demands a gift befitting such heroism." Before Jax could protest, the prince clapped his hands, and a set of towering golden doors swung open. Beyond them lay a garden of unparalleled beauty, lush greenery intertwined with cascading waterfalls, and the air was filled with the faint hum of music. Amid the garden's splendour stood a group of women, each more captivating than the last, their features exotic and enchanting. "This," Corrin announced, "is the royal harem, a sanctuary of peace and beauty reserved for the crown and those deemed most worthy. I extend to you the rarest of honours, an invitation to join us here, not as a visitor, but as one of us." Jax blinked, momentarily stunned. "You're serious?" "Entirely," the prince said, his tone earnest. "These women are not mere ornaments. They are scholars, warriors, and artists from across the galaxy. They represent the best of Aya's allies in culture. I believe you will find more than companionship here. You will find a home." Jax glanced toward the women, their gazes a mix of curiosity and intrigue, then back at the prince. "This is unexpected." "Life often is," Corrin replied. "But you've proven yourself worthy of our highest respect. Consider this an invitation to something greater than the life of a mere mercenary." As the golden doors closed behind him, Jax couldn't help but wonder what he had just stepped into. A world of luxury and intrigue awaited, but so too did challenges he could never have imagined. Jax Carter stood at the edge of the royal garden, feeling like a soldier thrust onto an alien battlefield. The Etherian harem was more than he had imagined, lush and sprawling, a paradise that seemed to defy the laws of nature. Crystalline flowers shimmered under a sky perpetually painted with hues of dusk, and waterfalls cascaded from floating rocks, their mist carrying the faintest scent of honeyed spices. The women who inhabited the garden were just as remarkable, their beauty matched only by the confidence in their bearing. They were of various species, each bringing a unique elegance to the serene environment. Yet Jax felt every one of their curious gazes as he walked deeper into their domain, guided by a tall Atheron attendant. "This is where you'll stay," the attendant said, gesturing to a pavilion surrounded by glowing flora. "You are free to explore, but remember, respect is paramount here. The women are not mere companions. They are the guardians of Aya's culture and diplomacy." Before Jax could reply, a voice interrupted. "And some of us are far more than that." Turning, Jax saw a striking woman approach. Her skin glimmered like polished bronze, her eyes a deep, unsettling violet. She carried herself with an air of authority, her robes a fusion of battle-ready practicality and royal elegance. "I'm Amara," she said, her tone sharp yet inquisitive. "You're the human mercenary?" "Guilty as charged," Jax replied, his instinct for banter kicking in. Amara studied him for a moment, her expression unreadable. "I don't trust easily, but Corrin speaks highly of you. Prove you're not just another brute with a gun." Jax raised an eyebrow. "And how would I do that?" Amara smirked, the challenge gleaming in her eyes. "Follow me." She led him to a secluded part of the garden where a sparring ring awaited. Several of the women gathered to watch, their expressions ranging from amused to curious. Amara picked up a staff weapon and tossed another to Jax. "Show me what you've got, mercenary." The sparring match was fast and fierce. Amara's movements were fluid and precise. Jax, despite his initial hesitation, held his own, using his battlefield experience to anticipate her strikes. The match ended in a draw, both combatants breathing heavily but clearly impressed with each other. "Not bad," Amara said, lowering her weapon. "You're more than muscle," Jax replied with a grin. "And you're more than royalty," he added. For the first time, Amara's stern demeanour softened. "Perhaps you'll fit in here after all." As days turned to weeks, Jax began to adapt to life within the harem. It wasn't the life of indulgence he had imagined. It was one of challenges, intellect, and connection. The women were scholars, warriors, and artists, each with a story and purpose that contributed to Aya's strength. Among them was Lara, a soft-spoken Nadian with silver scales that shimmered under the garden's perpetual twilight. She was a historian and linguist, and her knowledge of ancient galactic civilizations fascinated Jax. "You've travelled so much," Lura said one evening as they sat by a luminous pond. "You must have seen remnants of these lost worlds." "I've seen ruins," Jax replied, watching the water ripple. "But I never thought much about their stories." Alara smiled faintly. "Every ruin has a story, Jax. Perhaps you'll help me uncover some of them." As Jax's relationships with the women deepened, so did his understanding of Aya's political complexities. The harem wasn't just a sanctuary, it was a hub of diplomacy. Many of the women were emissaries from other planets, maintaining fragile alliances through their presence. One evening, Amara sought him out again, her expression grim. "Jax, we've got a problem." "What kind of problem?" he asked, immediately on alert. She handed him a datapad. "Intercepted communications. Someone within the palace is working with an outside faction to destabilize Etheria. They're planning something big." Jack scanned the data, his jaw tightening. "Who's behind it?" Amara shook her head. "We don't know yet, but we need someone who can operate outside the usual channels. Someone like you." The weight of the request settled on Jax. He had come here as a guest, but now he was being asked to act. "You're sure about this?" he asked. Amara met his gaze, her eyes unwavering. "I trust you, Jax, and so does Curran." Jax nodded, his resolve hardening. "Then let's find whoever's behind this before it's too late." The mercenary within him surged to life, but something was different now. This wasn't just another job, it was personal. The Harem, once an alien world to him, had become a place of bonds and purpose, and he was ready to protect it at any cost. The tranquil beauty of the Etherean harem masked an undercurrent of tension as Jax Carter and Amara worked to uncover the traitor within the palace. Using the intercepted communications, they identified key locations where the conspirators had been active. The evidence pointed to an insider, a trusted member of the court, who had been feeding information to an external faction intent on destabilizing Etheria. Jax, accustomed to operating alone, found himself relying on Amara's deep knowledge of the palace and its intricate political web. Together, they combed through encrypted messages and surveillance data, piecing together a trail that led them closer to the truth. Their investigation brought them to the palace archives, a labyrinth of ancient knowledge and modern records. Under the pretense of studying Etherian diplomacy, Jax and Lyra, whose linguistic expertise proved invaluable, scoured the archives for additional clues. "These symbols," Lyra murmured, pointing to a series of characters on a recovered datapad, "they're part of an ancient trade cipher. Whoever is behind this has connections to off-world smugglers." "Any way to trace it back?" Jax asked, leaning over her shoulder. Olara's silver scales caught the soft glow of the datapad as she nodded. "If we cross-reference recent supply shipments, we might find a match." Their breakthrough came in the form of a shipment logged under a false name, a delivery to a remote section of the palace. It was a restricted area, one rarely visited by even the highest-ranking members of the court. Amara, upon learning this, tensed. "That wing houses the planetary defense systems. If someone's tampered with those, they're planning more than sabotage," Jax finished grimly. "They're planning an attack under the cover of night." Jax, Amara, and a small group of trusted palace guards infiltrated the restricted wing. The corridors were eerily silent, their walls lined with panels that hummed faintly with the power of Aya's advanced technology. As they approached the defense system's control room, Jax's sharp eyes caught a faint glint of movement. He raised a hand, signaling the group to halt. "We're not alone," he whispered. Moments later, a group of armed infiltrators emerged from the shadows, their weapons aimed at the group. The ambush was swift, but Jax and Amara were faster. Plasma bolts lit up the dark corridor as the two fought with precision. Their teamwork, honed through shared battles, was evident. In the chaos, Jax spotted a figure retreating into the control room. "Go!" Amara shouted, covering him as he pursued the fleeing suspect. Inside the control room, Jax confronted a palace official, one of Curran's closest advisors. The man sneered, his hand hovering over a console. "You should have stayed out of this, mercenary." "Funny," Jax replied, leveling his blaster. "I was just thinking the same about you." The advisor activated a sequence on the console, and an alarm blared through the palace. On the monitors, Jax saw automated drones and defensive turrets coming online, targeting the palace itself. "You're too late," the advisor said, his voice dripping with triumph. "Etheria will burn, and you'll be remembered as the fool who couldn't stop it." Jax didn't hesitate. He fired a precise shot, incapacitating the advisor before sprinting to the console. The controls were complex, layered with security protocols. "I need help here," he barked into his cowl. Amara and Laura arrived moments later. Elira immediately began working on the console, her fingers flying over the controls. "He's overloaded the system," she said, her voice tense. "If we don't shut this down in the next 2 minutes, the palace defenses will turn on the city." "Can you stop it?" Jax asked. "I can try," Laura replied, her determination evident. As El-Ra worked, more infiltrators stormed the room. Amara and Jax held the line, their weapons blazing as they protected El-Ra. The minutes stretched into an eternity, the fate of Etheria hanging in the balance. Finally, with a triumphant cry, El-Ra deactivated the system. The alarm ceased and the monitors went dark, signalling the threat had been neutralized. Amara exhaled deeply, lowering her weapon. That was too close. Jax smirked, adrenaline still coursing through him. Close calls are kind of my specialty. Laura turned to them, her silver eyes shining with relief. We did it. The three of them stood amidst the wreckage, the weight of their victory settling in. Etheria was safe for now, but Jax knew this was just the beginning. Someone had orchestrated this attack, and they wouldn't stop until the planet was in ruins. We need to find out who's pulling the strings, Jax said, and when we do, we finish this. Amara nodded, her expression resolute. Agreed. Aya's enemies won't get another chance. Together, they left the control room, ready to face whatever challenges awaited. For Jax, this wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about protecting a world that had become more than a mission. It had become a home. The aftermath of the palace infiltration left Jax Carter and his allies shaken, but resolute. Aya's security was compromised, and the traitorous advisor's actions pointed to a far-reaching conspiracy. Back in the safety of the Harem's central chamber, Jax, Amara, and El-Ra pored over the stolen files recovered during the mission. These files are encrypted with a high-level cipher, El-Ra said, her silver scales catching the faint glow of the holographic display. Whoever orchestrated this had access to resources far beyond the palace. Jax leaned over her shoulder, his brow furrowed. Can you crack it? Lara nodded, determination flashing in her eyes. Give me time. Meanwhile, Amara coordinated with Prince Corin, who was visibly shaken by the betrayal. Someone powerful is behind this, Corin admitted during a private meeting. Someone who knows Aya's weaknesses intimately. A breakthrough came hours later when El-Ra decrypted the files. The name at the heart of the conspiracy sent a chill through the room. Lord Tavik, a former Etherian general who had been exiled for war crimes decades earlier. Tavik's ambition had not faded in exile. Instead, he built a covert empire among the lawless fringes of the galaxy, amassing a private army and technological resources. He's planning to return, Jax said grimly, scanning the intercepted communications. And he's not coming for a negotiation. Amara slammed her hand on the table. If Tavik gains control of Etheria, it won't just be this planet at risk. He'll destabilize the entire region. Corin's voice hardened. Then we must strike first. The plan was bold. Confront Tavik at his stronghold on the barren moon of Karis. It was a fortress built for war, but it was also their best chance to end the threat before Tavik could mobilize his forces. The moon of Karis loomed ahead, a harsh landscape of jagged peaks and endless dust storms. Tavik's stronghold was carved into the largest mountain, its defences bristling with automated turrets and heavily armed guards. Jax, Amara and El-Ra led a small elite strike team. Their mission, infiltrate and disable the command centre. We go in fast, hit the power core and get out, Jax said during the briefing aboard the Starblaze. Tavik won't know what hit him. Landing on Karis under the cover of a storm, the team used the moon's natural terrain to evade detection. Jax's sharp instincts guided them through the rocky landscape, while Amara's tactical acumen ensured they avoided patrols. As they neared the stronghold, El-Ra spotted a weakness in the defences. The eastern perimeter sensor grid is outdated, she said, her fingers dancing over her portable scanner. We can bypass it with a short-range jammer. Jax grinned. Then let's give Tavik a surprise. They breached the stronghold's outer defences with precision, taking out guards silently as they moved deeper into the facility. Inside, the atmosphere was tense, the air filled with the hum of machinery and the distant echoes of Tavik's troops preparing for war. Reaching the command centre, they found Tavik himself, a towering figure with a cybernetic arm and a voice like grinding metal. "So the prince sends a mercenary and his entourage to stop me?" Tavik sneered, his expression twisted with disdain. "Pathetic." "Pathetic would be letting you walk away," Jack shot back, levelling his blaster. Tavik's laugh reverberated through the room as he activated a console. "Do you really think you can win? I've spent decades planning this. Etheria will fall, and you'll be nothing more than a footnote." The battle was fierce. Tavik's guards swarmed the command centre, forcing Jax and his team to fight with everything they had. Amara's blade danced through the chaos, her precision unmatched, while Lara used her tech expertise to disable automated defences. Mid-fight, Jax confronted Tavik head-on. Their clash was a brutal exchange of strength and strategy. Tavik's cybernetic enhancements made him a formidable opponent, but Jax's battlefield experience and adaptability gave him the edge. With a well-placed shot, Jax disabled Tavik's cybernetic arm, forcing the warlord to retreat deeper into the stronghold. As Tavik fled, Elra completed her hack of the power core, setting the facility's self-destruct sequence. "We have 5 minutes to get out of here," she warned. The team pursued Tavik to the facility's hangar, where the warlord attempted to escape in a personal transport. Jax, injured but relentless, managed to disable the craft with a final, well-aimed shot. Tavik staggered out of the wreckage, his plans in ruins. "You've won this battle," he spat, "but the war is far from over." "Wrong," Jax replied, raising his weapon. "This is where your war ends." With a single shot, he ended Tavik's reign of terror. As the team escaped the crumbling stronghold, the explosion lit up the Etherian sky, a fiery testament to their victory. Back aboard the Starblaze, Corrin's voice came through the comms, filled with relief and gratitude. "Etheria owes you a debt that can never be repaid." Jax, leaning against the cockpit console, exchanged a glance with Amara and Elira. "Let's just hope this is the last time I have to save your planet," Jax said. Amara smirked. "Somehow I doubt it." Elra's quiet laugh echoed through the ship as they plotted their course back to Etheria. The weight of their victory tempered by the knowledge that their fight wasn't over. But together, they were ready for whatever came next. Returning to Etheria after Tavik's defeat, Jax Carter expected a brief moment of respite. Instead, he and his allies found themselves walking into a political storm. The court, though grateful for their efforts, was rife with division. The revelation of Tavik's allies within the palace had shaken the monarchy's foundation, and whispers of mistrust lingered in every hall. Prince Corrin convened an emergency council meeting to address the aftermath. The grand chamber was filled with Etherian nobles, their luminous robes shimmering under the soft glow of the floating crystals above. Jax, Amara, and Lara stood at the prince's side, their presence a stark reminder of the danger they had faced. "We've eliminated the immediate threat," Corrin said, his voice firm but weary. "But Tavik's influence has left scars on our people. Rebuilding trust will take time." One of the nobles, a stern figure named Lord Varsia, spoke up. "And what of the traitors who aided him? How do we ensure they're brought to justice?" Amara, ever the pragmatist, stepped forward. "We've identified several of his key operatives. They're being interrogated as we speak. But we must act carefully. Punishment without proof will only deepen the divisions." As tensions rose, Jax observed the room with a practiced eye. He had seen this before, the fragile calm that followed a battle where the smallest spark could reignite chaos. Etheria's true test was just beginning. After the meeting, Corrin approached Jax privately. "This victory was hard won, but the work isn't over," Corrin said. "Etheria needs more than strength. It needs unity." "And you think I can help with that?" Jax asked, raising an eyebrow. Corin nodded. You've proven yourself to be more than a mercenary. Your perspective is exactly what we need. Jax, unaccustomed to such trust, hesitated, but the thought of leaving Etheria in its current state didn't sit right with him. All right, he said finally. Let's make sure this peace holds. Weeks turned into months as Jax, Amara and Lyra worked alongside Prince Corin to stabilize Etheria. Together, they dismantled the remnants of Tavik's network, forged new alliances, and strengthened the planet's defenses. The Harem, once seen as a symbol of opulence, became a center of diplomacy, its members playing vital roles in rebuilding trust among Etheria's allies. One evening, as the twin moons of Etheria bathed the palace gardens in silver light, Jax found himself standing on a balcony overlooking the city. The once chaotic streets were now bustling with life, a testament to the resilience of the Etherian people. You're thinking about leaving, Lyra said softly, joining him. Her silver scales glimmered in the moonlight, her gaze calm but knowing. Jax sighed. It's what I'm used to. I go where the fight is. But Etheria isn't just a fight to you, Lyra said. It's become something more. Amara appeared, her arms crossed and a faint smirk on her lips. She's right, you know. You've put down roots here, even if you're too stubborn to admit it. Jax chuckled, shaking his head. You two don't let up, do you? Not when it comes to you, Amara said, her tone softening. You've earned your place here, Jax. Etheria needs people like you. Jax looked between them, their words resonating deeply. For years, he had wandered the galaxy, chasing jobs and living on the edge. But here, on this alien world, he had found more than survival. He had found purpose. The next morning, Jax approached Prince Corin in the throne room. I'm staying, he said simply. Etheria still has work to do, and I'm not leaving until it's done. Corin's expression brightened, his gratitude evident. You honour us, Jax Carter. Together, we'll build a future worthy of this planet. With his decision made, Jax stood beside Amara and Lyra, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Etheria's path to peace was far from over, but he knew they would meet it head-on as they always had, together. As the sun rose over Etheria, its light casting golden hues across the palace, Jax looked to the horizon. A sense of calm settled over him. For the first time in years, he wasn't just moving forward, he was moving towards something greater. Under the vast expanse of the galaxy's endless stars, Jax Carter had found a home, a family, and a purpose worth fighting for. And as the palace came alive with the promise of a new day, he knew the journey was only just beginning.